I'm Lise Kuecker, a longtime studio owner turned founder here at Studio Grow. Just a few years ago, I was building my studios the hard way. So I didn't have the team, the budget, or most importantly, the time. Now, if you speed up to today, I sold my wildly profitable studios in the mid 7 figures while serving my community in ways I could have only dreamed. Now I work with thousands of boutique fitness studio owners in over 40 countries, and I am so blessed to share some of the best tested strategies for our industry every single week. I created this podcast so you'd always have clear, actionable processes, tried and tested advice, and just some good old-fashioned inspiration. So you can take steps to grow your studio and turn it into a powerhouse empire just like I did. If you're a studio owner who's ready to impact your community and see major growth in the process, or you're prepping to become one, then you're in the right place. So let's kick this off, shall we? Y'all, it's not every day you get to pick the brains of two of the brightest minds in boutique fitness. Now, I've known Jennifer for, it's been a couple of years now.
I think we met during
COVID. We don't want to say that world around.
That's when we met.
Founder of Physique 57, one of what I would call the best bar brands in the world. I mean, like legitimately a bar brand that stands out among an overcrowded bar market. And Jack and I got to meet 2 years ago, probably.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah. I fell in love with his podcast, which is entirely centered on the Asian fitness business market. But then he released the Fit Guide, and I was like, this is going to be my favorite human in the entire world. So the Fit Guide has become, I think, the gold standard, and I think we can compare it to the Michelin Star Guide, Forbes 5-star guide, and things of the like, of what is truly great in fitness today. And we started this conversation, part of me wish we could have recorded what we already said. But this conversation started with the idea of what makes an incredible experience inside of fitness. The bar's pretty low right now. You have wound up tracking Singapore, Dubai, London, New York,
LA. In a couple of weeks, yeah, we've already done the LA visits.
Yep. Looking in at this, we've got some changes we get to make. So first of all, I'm eager to talk. So let's start studio owner in New York City. Mm-hmm. Most prominent market in the world, arguably, on where this goes. You have to differentiate against literally every brand new, the hottest new workouts, the hottest new trainers, the hottest new instructors. You've built a brand that I think is a legacy brand, and it's largely comes down to the hospitality and service that you built. So just walk us through what that's been like.
Yeah. So I started Physique 57 in 2005. And really, when I was talking to architects, and so no one had built a boutique studio before because boutique studios didn't exist. And that wasn't even the term. It was just called, I want to have a studio. That's what boutique fitness was. It was just and Tanya Becker, my co-founder, wanted to create a fitness environment where women were very comfortable. And I specifically said to the architect, I want it to be like an apartment. So when the doors open on the 8th floor of this building, I want them to feel like they're coming to my house to work out.
I love that.
And it was very hard for the architect to understand that, but he was a residential architect, so he wasn't even commercial. So it was just like, okay, I have to kind of build an apartment that you can work out in. The Mandy.
I love this.
Yeah, it was great.
I would have liked to have been there for this conversation.
It was really funny. And then it was also like, why are you teaching the same thing all day? Because it was not a concept at the time where you would go somewhere, except for yoga and Pilates at the time, that you would walk in and just do the same thing all day. So it was like, wait, you're going to have a Pelé bar on the wall and carpet on the floor, and you're just going to do that all day? Like, yeah. I am. And stop asking me so many questions. So it really was an unusual thing that we were doing, and it really took off. So it really was, though, about hospitality. And in many ways, what we teach is just like, and by the way, we teach bar exercise. It was more about, we want to create a place where women will come and feel confident in their own bodies. And it happens to be a bar, but it could have been anything else. It's just an I knew bar, and that's what I wanted it to be. But it was just about creating an environment that also had exercise in it. And one thing that I talked about today in our speech was that the studio was nice. We had it for 17 years. And by the time, then we moved after COVID, but by the time we were up, it was not, it was, had some wear and tear.
Yeah.
And we also knew the building was going to be sold. So this is pre-COVID. And I was always like, do we put more money into this space, or are they going to sell the building like we're going to do? So admittedly, it wasn't like top notch.
Yeah.
However, it was where we sold the most memberships. Clients were so happy. It had the highest class average. And the point I was trying to make today is it doesn't have to be the nicest studio ever. It doesn't have to have expensive things. It just has to have a really warm feeling to it.
Yeah.
And it was very small, and people bumped into each other all the time. And it like physically bumped into each other, and they would complain, but then they would come back and they still felt like this was where all their friends and their family were. And that was exactly what we were trying to accomplish. And then the goal was to bring this international. So we created this environment here. We've tried to create that environment in India and Bangkok and in Dubai. And then we were in LA and other places. And just that the training on hospitality is really the only training that matters at first. And of course, you have to train the teachers, but the teachers, it's really two ways of teaching them. We teach them what to teach, and then you teach them how to teach. And
I
what
love
think
that.
is missing in the whole industry is the how to teach. What you teach them, critically important for some reasons, and to stay true to your method. But how you teach it is how you get people to come back. And you can tell people to do 10 jumping jacks one way, or you can tell people to do 10 jumping jacks another way.
Yeah.
By the way, we don't even teach jumping jacks, but I'm just using but you can even teach something that elementary two different ways, and one is going to be more hospitable than the other.
I love this. When did you leave the UK?
21 years ago.
Okay, have you been in Thailand the whole time?
I have, Bangkok.
Okay.
21 years.
All right. So first of all, we got to ask, why Bangkok?
It happened by accident, I guess. I was doing a corporate job, which I did not enjoy in the UK. I went traveling to Thailand just for 2 weeks. I had a great time, made me realize I didn't want to do a corporate job. This was 2003. So I spent 6 months saving up money. I had my day corporate job, which I hated, and a bar job in the night, saved up as much money as I could, and then went to Thailand. And one thing led to another. I had about 6 months traveling, a year teaching English, 7 years running a clothing export business, which kind of gave me some fundamentals for entrepreneurship, and then got into fitness. That was 14 years ago. And so my fitness journey is coach, then a fitness manager, did that for 4 years, those two roles. Then I felt confident enough, having managed coaches and hired coaches and kind of seen what it meant to build a studio and build a brand. I felt ready to build my own brand. So I set up Base 9 years ago. And even though I felt ready, I realized quickly that I wasn't really that ready. We had a really poor first 6 months, sales weren't very good. And so that launched me into this whole journey of learning and development. So listening to podcasts such as yours, and that inspired me to start my own podcast in 2018. And then I've been on a constant journey of development since then. We're now at 300 episodes, so I still think some way behind you, 600 or 700 episodes, I believe. But we'll still get to 300, so it's not too bad. Weekly episodes in 2019. And then the Fit Guide was born about 2 years ago. So as you discussed briefly, it's a global standard of excellence for the fitness industry that we've developed.
When I think about Thailand, and actually it's funny because I happen to be looking at like the 50 best hotels in the world. Like 3 of them sit in Thailand, number one.
Yeah, Capella.
Yeah. So looking at this, you're living in a culture where hospitality is at the absolute core. When did you realize that there was a possibility fitness had a hospitality issue?
Oh, good question. So Thailand, yes, they are very hospitable, and also they do bring that onto the business and service side as well. We have spoken that's not always the case in all 100%. Cultures. They can be quite hospitable when you go into their home, but they seem to struggle on the service side. And Thailand really does get it right on both sides. And we've hired hundreds of people through Base, and Thais, if you treat them well and you look after them, they are just fantastic. And they're naturally very hospitable, and they want to do a great job, and they want to give a great experience. So very, very suited to our industry. That never sort of gave me the idea for the Fit Guide. That was a chance conversation around 2 years ago with Matthew, my business partner, Matt Lavender. And so he was working at Forbes Travel Guide. So he was global head of evaluation. So he was basically in charge of the global process for evaluators, training them up, reviewing the standards that he took hotels through, the best hotels, your Capellas, your St. Regis's, your W's, the best hotels in the world. And so he was talking about what he did in hospitality. I was talking about what I did in fitness. And we kind of had this light bulb moment that the fitness industry needed something like this. It was ready for something like this. And it could really help to elevate the industry.
Yeah.
And, help us get better careers, more money. Everyone gets better paid. we enjoy, have longer lasting careers in the industry, and ultimately have more impact for the people that we serve. And we felt this was just a fantastic way to do it, and really a gap in the market, really. So that was kind of where the Fit Guide was born. We went through a whole process of developing the evaluation process, and then we went in anonymously to Singapore, Sydney, Dubai, London, and New York in the first year.
And that's how I found out that I was in the Fit Guide.
That's how we met. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had, and sorry, I didn't mean to jump in,
Sure,
but
please.
that's how this all happened. So I was listening to the Age of Fitness podcast, because we have studios in India and Bangkok and Dubai. So I was a fan, and I was always listening to this Jack Thomas guy. And then he started to say things like something big is happening, or stay tuned, I'm about to announce something. And it's such a good marketing tool to say that. I was like, okay. And then I kept listening.
This is what we wanted everyone
this.
to say.
Yeah, I was like,
Ooh, what is it? What is it? Yeah.
Worked exactly as planned.
Exactly as planned. So I was listening all the time, waiting to hear what this thing was. And then it was announced that there was this rating guide, and going to be, I think maybe I knew you were going to New York, but I didn't know when he was coming to New York. So I knew they were coming, but I didn't know when. And I just sort of in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder what's going to happen. And then one morning I was I got a LinkedIn message, and it was Jack saying, like, I've been to your studio, or someone's been to your studio, and you got 5 stars. I was like, yay!
Everyone wants to get. I love
So
that.
exciting. And I do remember that it was very early, because I do check my emails pretty early. And I was like, oh my God, I had to wait for all my team to wake up. I'm like, yeah, guys, there's this thing, and we got 5 stars. And that really, that was huge. And that was huge for my whole company, because it was also just a couple years after COVID, and people needed a boost.
Yeah.
So it was.
A few owners we've spoken to have said that it kind of came at the right moment
just
for them,
came at
especially
the
when we
right
launched, when
time.
things were still sort of getting better. And I think it's important to say as well that if you're 5 stars, it really is the top 1 or 2% in the industry. Because some club owners were like, well, what does that mean exactly? I'm 5 stars or Award of Excellence or whatever it is. But 5 stars really is very good. It means getting over 90% in our process. So it's 250 standards. Only if you get 90% or more can you get 5 stars. And that goes through every single element of member journey from start to
I
finish. So
should've
it means a lot.
Should have brought the report. So it's meaty. When you print it up, it's like 20 pages, and it's 250 metrics. Yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, and then some comments. It's like amazing that we got 5 stars. I just want to say I'm not surprised, but I was really impressed with my team. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
Love it.
And it is, and then it actually also says who was there that they rated. So I think the person at the front desk, who is my studio director.
I love
And then who
that.
the teacher is, and so you can give kudos to those who deserve
100%.
it. And it is so detailed, and it really, you really shouldn't open a studio or expand a studio unless you know those 250 metrics, because that is the key. And you can like create your training program from this.
We've had brands who have done that. They've shared the report across their whole network, and they kind of used that to build out their SOPs, either kind of from scratch or just refining their SOPs. And some of them, we've got no business or anything like that from them. We visited, we give the report for free and full, and they've gone through it and they've used it to improve their standards. And I think that's awesome. That's kind of exactly what we wanted to happen. Another thing, we touched on it today in today's talk. We discovered that we'd have a lot of conversations with gym owners, and 5 stars doesn't happen by accident. That's probably the best way to put it. Once you actually speak to the club owners, they've got the training, they've got the processes, they plan the whole member journey out from start to
100%.
finish, as Jennifer has done. And also the opposite is true. When clubs haven't scored well, there's a lot of excuses, especially around the sales process. That's been one of the most fascinating ones for me. They'll often say things like, oh, we don't want to be pushy for our clients. And then you look at the report and it's like, it's not about being pushy, it's about seeing sales as service. So our evaluators will always kind of act like we've just moved to the city, we're
100%.
interested in training, we had a great workout, and often we just go to the app, or everything's on the website. And even when they say, oh, what packages do you have? It's all on the website, just go there. Forget sales for a moment, forget
rush
money, that's terrible service. That's awful service. If I go and do a Pilates class, and I would benefit from Pilates, and you believe as a studio owner that I should be doing more Pilates, help me get started. Help me continue my Pilates journey. Don't just tell me to download an app. I might have every intention of doing that in the moment, and then I get busy, I can't find the app, it doesn't download properly,
100%.
and I never do it. So we really believe strongly in framing sales as just good customer service.
Absolutely. Well, it's the ultimate education process. I think sometimes with sales, we often look at this and assume that exactly as you said, we don't want to be salesy, we don't want to be pushy, we don't want to be a used car salesman, for lack of a better term on this one. I was giving the example, did you ever read Matilda?
Yeah.
greatest books of all times. Roald Dahl, Matilda, Matilda's dad. Nobody wanted to be Matilda's dad. He was the epitome of a nasty used car salesman. So looking in at this though, you know, we framed and made this assumption when in reality, most people are walking into our studios without the same knowledge base that we have. They haven't done Pilates or yoga or personal training for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And we're assuming they're just going to be able to make a significant decision. And that to me it's such a disservice.
100%.
Such a disservice. So let's start with the sales piece of this, because in my mind, sales is service. Sales should come from a place of customer service, and sales should be something that we should assume that if somebody is walking into our studio, part of our job is to provide an education process that at least enables them to make a decision. You don't need to push them to a decision. You just need to give them the information they need to be able to say, what is best for me? So what were the biggest takeaways that y'all learned from the sales process?
Well, there's so much, and it's a topic that I'm very passionate about. And another thing that we hear studio owners saying, again, which is kind of absurd, is, we let clients make their own mind up, thinking that they're doing them a service. We don't pressure them, we let them make their own mind up. They don't know what they need.
They don't know what they're doing.
How often do they know what package they need? If I go into, I use the analogy, if I go into a washing machine store, I need help. How often do you wash? Do you have any family members? You know, how many clothes do you have? And then say, okay, what's your budget? Would be another big one as well. And then based on that, you know what, Jack, there's 3 washing machines that might be right for you. If I walk in and there's 100 washing machines and they say, we'll let you make your own mind up, we don't want to pressure you, I have no clue and I'm going to walk out. Those people are, you know, like me buying washing machines, they've got no idea what they need. So we need to help them to get there. And honestly, the best way to do it, well, number one is to build rapport. And so we have standards around that. So an easy way to do that is names, right? So learn someone's name, to use it authentically is a great first step. Matthew today talks about, he calls it mind the gap. So G is genuine interest. So, you know, how are you doing today? Do you live around here? Do you work around here? Anything like that. A is anticipatory service. So anticipating their needs before they ask for something. Another great way to connect. And then P is personalization. So that can be name usage, but there's other ways to show that you know who you're talking to, and this is personalized to them. So that's kind of the foundations, and that helps you to build rapport. Once you build rapport and they feel comfortable with you, you ask questions. You know, did you enjoy the class? Can you see yourself doing this more often? How often would you like to train? How long are you going to be in New York for? 6 months, or we have a 6-month program that might be good for you. And then you just guide them to where they want to go. At the end of it, you know, I'd often, if I'm going to sell to someone, I give them a few options, like the washing machine analogy. We've got the Rolls Royce version, or we've got the more budget one. What do you think is good for you, Jack? So for me as a salesperson, and what I encourage is, once you've gone through that process, so we've got a couple of options for you, Jack. If you want to train 5 times a week, we've got this option for you. If you kind of want to dip in a little bit more, dip in and out, maybe try a few other things, we've got this option. What do you think? Kind of putting it on the client. And I used to hate sales. I used to be that person. So that's why I'm particularly passionate about this. But once you approach it in that way, sales is fun. Sales feels good.
You're helping people.
Exactly, 100%. And once, it comes down to mindset as well, right? It's sales processes, but very much mindset. Once you have that mindset of like, I believe in Pilates, I believe in yoga, I believe in what I offer, I need to help people get started, it really shifts and changes everything. And I think the industry's got a long way to go in that area.
Let me ask, sales process inside of Physique 57.
Yeah.
What does this look like?
So New York City, and like a lot of markets, it's busy.
Yeah.
It's busy. And we've made some changes. So, and this, something that I think is important is to match your economics and goals financially with hospitality. And they're not opposing, but you just have to make sure it's all working together. And that's really hard. So we changed our method. So I'll say we used to, for many years, have 2 studios in a location.
Yep.
And 2 rooms in a location, and have 2 women or men at the front desk. And there was a lot more in-person sales, and there was just sort of always someone around that could do the sales. We had more staff there. Post-COVID in New York City, for many reasons, we changed that model, and we have 1 room and 1 person at the front desk. Another change we made after COVID, so COVID required us to have like half hour or 15 minutes in between classes, which was fine, but it ended up sort of, it just economically, we couldn't have as many classes.
Sure.
And then also it changed the energy. And what the teachers would say to me is, and I'm going to answer your question in a second, but what the teachers would say to me is they kind of don't like that 15 minutes in between because the energy dies. Like people leave and then there's dead silence in the studio and then people come in.
Yeah.
And it was like, they kind of wanted credit for people to know they just had 25 people there.
100%.
And because it was like 25 to 30 people, then 0. 25 to 30 people, then 0. And they're like, I kind of want them to know that we just taught all those people.
100%.
And there's an energy there. So, and also it allowed us to add more classes because we found more time in the day. So for many reasons, we made a change. So what I'm getting at is that we only have 5 minutes in between classes. We have, we can have up to 27 people in a class back to back, like especially on a Saturday morning. So there's like hardly any time for selling. There's always time for hospitality. There's not always time for these long conversations. And it's loud. And people are bumping into each other, which I always talk about, which is fun.
I love it. I love it.
But it's hard to say, let's go have a nice long talk about your fitness goals. So when we made the change to the 5 minutes, I outsourced sales. So now someone else does the sales from a quiet location, just making phone calls. We do a lot of sales, and we do provide commission to the front desk. There is a lot of sales going on in person. And that it will be more like a renewal or like an obvious sale, like a newcomer unlimited, like things that are more obvious and less of a discussion. But when it comes to buying an annual membership or like a 25 class package or something that's over $1,000, let's say,
100%.
that is done by somebody offsite who's making phone calls all day. And that has proven to be very successful. So internally or at the studio, it's hospitality driven and it's sales light, if you want to call it. But then like the more comprehensive sale that requires more education tends to be done through somebody else from a different company.
I love that. I mean, I think a centralized sales process is something it's a really powerful way. And I think in a market like New York City or London or Sydney, where you're paying such a high price per square foot or price per square meter, it's almost necessary because you're not necessarily going to have the space. You're going to need to drive that in. I remember the first time we started really doing offsite sales would have been in 2018, 2019. We were doing it before in Chicago and New York and a few of those places, but we started saying, this is working so well, you could do it even if you actually had the space for a sales team. Because it made it so convenient for the people who were in, and their experience, for whatever reason, was just better. Okay, so
it's not as rushed.
I love that. Yes. I love that. Going back to touch on our standards and where we're at, it seems to me that most people don't ever try to make the sale. And certainly if that is where you're at, and it's to a detriment. Like I will walk in for a drop-in at a studio in my hometown that I've never been into, and no one will ever say, did you know it would be much smarter if you bought the introductory package instead, or vice versa on this? Take me back just like a step before this. The actual experience that you see when somebody is in studio. It's a conversation that we've had a lot lately is that last year we sent our team out. They roughly went to, I don't know, probably 200 different studios.
Oh, wow.
A lot of them were brand name studios. These were all over the world. We were not looking for a monitoring. It was more just a, hey, give us your general assessment. But a lot of them were studios that were names that they were sometimes very niche, but like very well known, getting great publicity. Sometimes they were just major names. And the overall feeling was like 60% of the classes, people came back and said, I'm disappointed. Yeah. Like it was as if like the great instructors, I chalk some of this up that we lost so much of our workforce, that it were seasoned instructors in the pandemic.
I think it was happening before as well, I think, honestly.
Yeah. So I'll say that didn't help us. But I go back to, is this a certification problem? Is this a recruiting and onboarding problem? Is this just a generalized standard problem? So my question for y'all on this is, as you've started to have this conversation, knowing there's a decline in the quality, and that yes, it's probably been going on for the better part of 7 or 8 years, what do we think the root cause is of this?
I don't think it's so much of a certification issue, to be honest. I would put it more into the category of a lack of respect for business acumen, I think, just overall across the board. And with that, I would say sort of infuse the hospitality angle, really, or service angle. So I think often, let's just take Pilates as an example, right? Let's kind of pick on Pilates. So let's say you have a Pilates instructor, she's doing fantastic work, she has loads of clients, everything's wonderful. And often the journey would be a well-to-do client would be like, why are you working for someone else? I'll chuck some money at you and open up a Pilates studio. And she's like, oh, this is fantastic, it's my dream, I love Pilates. But actually, once you set up a studio and you started a studio, it hasn't really got that much to do with Pilates. You're running a business, and it's about hiring processes, standards, SOPs, training, legal stuff, financials, of course. There's so many areas that really have nothing to do with Pilates, and really that person should be pulled away from the Pilates floor as soon as possible. So then it becomes inspiring a team, teaching a team, managing and leading a team, and often that's where it really breaks down. So that's probably the single biggest thing that I think we need to do better at in the fitness industry. Of course, you have franchises that give more of the systems and the processes and everything else, and the good ones would have strong vetting processes to find out who can follow the playbook.
Sure.
But in the independent space, I would say that is the biggest issue.
That's fascinating. What have you seen? I mean, you're sitting in New York City, so I'm assuming you're going to a lot more studios occasionally than just your own.
Yes.
Is it a trend
and
you've
when
seen?
I travel, I go
Everywhere.
Even, I was in Las Vegas for a different conference in October, and I went somewhere. Here, anytime I go somewhere, I try to take a class, and it's usually not bar because I get enough bar.
100%.
But I'll take.
Do you tell them who you are and I'm from Physique, or do you just go and
I just sign up, and I've taken classes all over, and I use my own name. I mean,
yeah,
I
they can Google you if they want.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I'm going to say something that might sound a little woo-woo, but I think it's too much ego and not enough gratitude. I just think, generally speaking, and I said this in our talk this morning, like my job is to make sure that clients feel better leaving than showing up.
Yeah.
And for them to want to come back. Even though I'm a CEO and even though, manager, like we all have things to do, I really have one job because we only make money one way. We only make money by clients coming and giving us money. There's no like other clothing or whatever, but really that's the number one job. However, I think sometimes studio owners, I think they think their job is something else.
100%. What's a different priority?
Yeah, or like or like they're the stars. I don't know. And I'm not picking on anyone in particular, but there just doesn't seem to be the sense of, we're just so grateful that you're here. Like I still, when I hear the phone ring, I'm like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I still am so excited when the phone rings.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh my God, someone's calling. I still am amazed that people are coming to my studio. Like in the elevator, we have we're on the 10th floor for one of my studios, and I was like, hi, I'm Jennifer. Is this your first time? Like, I'm just like, I can't believe you're here. And I don't think that should die. Like, I think we should. Every studio owner has to be thankful for every single person that comes to their studio, because they very easily could have not come. It takes a long time to get there. There's either parking or there's subways or there's something like. And what I talk about with our front desk a lot is, do you know how much people have been through just to get here? Like, I sometimes think the front desk feels like people who can afford the prices that we're charging have some sort of luxurious life. Like maybe a driver dropped them off while they were peeling grapes or something, and then like pick them up and give them a massage in the backseat of them. Like, that's not what's happening. People are getting their kids off to school. They're probably calling their own parents, taking care of, they're all sandwiched between children and their own parents. And like by the time they show up for that 9:30 class, they've probably been awake for like 3 hours doing a ton of stuff. This isn't just like
Give them grace.
Gonna go work out today. And that's why we have to be so grateful that they're there. And I think there's, servant leadership would go, I think there's a very close relationship between leadership, servant leadership, and hospitality. Like, we're just here for you. Like, I'm only here to make you better. I'm not here for anything having to do with me. It's all about you. And if there was a shift in a leadership style, not only would there be better hospitality, I think your employees, like one thing I didn't talk about today, but employees benefit from the hospitality, because once you start treating your anticipatory service and all the gap that Matt was talking about, that's easily applied to your employees. And Physique 57 for our trainers have a 7-year length of service, because we treat employees the same way we treat our clients. And
I love that.
Yeah, like you just have to. We're celebrating 12-year anniversaries and 10-year anniversaries all the time, and it's because hopefully, we're treating them with the same mindset, because it is a mindset.
I love this. Now, before we wrap up, I got to talk modalities, because I think this is a very interesting conversation. So barre versus yoga versus Pilates versus HIIT, there were some real gaps between modalities.
Absolutely.
So run me through the data on this.
It is fascinating. Actually, I was going to ask you a question before you just jumped in then, which was on this very topic. So the you tell me, what do you think the lowest scoring modality is?
Well, I'm cheating a little bit because you told me before, but it would have been my guess, and that would have been yoga.
Yeah.
And there's in my mind, there's an interesting way that
a lot of yoga practitioners, and I think it comes from a guru mentality.
Yes, I agree.
Where there's an assumption that it is because of me that you are coming.
Right.
And that the guru, and therefore now the teacher, is at the center of attention rather than the client. That's my presumption with it.
I've spoken to many people in yoga and they said something very similar. Yeah. And I honestly thought it would be the easiest one to score highly, because if someone like myself goes and to do a yoga class, I need a lot of help. Like, hey, come and help me. I can't get into positions. And also I need to be made to feel comfortable. Yeah. So if there is anything I need to know, I would let them know. And they know I'm a bit of a beginner and I need a little bit more help. Don't worry, I'll look after you, Jack. To come around, use my name a couple of times, help me to get into position or whatever it is. So I would have thought, honestly, it would be quite easy for yoga studios to score well. And so it baffled me a little bit. And speaking to people within yoga, they said very much the same thing as you. Often it's almost about, I mean, you said the word ego. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but it's almost sort of about them at the front of the room doing 100%. The practice. Of course, there have been some yoga studios that scored well, but every single city we visited, every single one out of 7 cities, yoga's been the poorest scoring modality, which I find fascinating, and I see it as a huge opportunity. Like just, it kind of, I'm not really into yoga, but it excites me as an opportunity. If I could clone myself, I would honestly start like a yoga chain, because not many are doing it well, whether it's a franchise or whether it's independence, and that gets me excited. The next poorest scoring, which is very interesting, is Pilates. So I believe, based on our data, that Pilates is doing incredibly well as a modality in spite of the service they're offering. So people are feeling that it's a great thing to do, all the strength training benefits, the flexibility, more men are doing it. So some fantastic things which is making Pilates explode, but there's a lot leaving a lot on the table, let's say. And I think when the industry settles a little bit for Pilates, I think a lot of the poorer performing studios that are doing very well now because it's so hot are suddenly going to start struggling. So I think to have a long-term brand, you've got to focus on these things. And I do again see that as an opportunity, for sure.
Did you ever go to Ramana's studio?
No, I was on the same street, but no, I never went.
Okay, so I went once as like a 21-year-old and I got hit, like literally with a stick while I was doing Pilates. And I mean, it wasn't hard, but it was hard enough that I was like, I'm never going back to the studio again. And it's the same idea, though. I think Pilates has an element of, one, it was training actual athletes. And so that it was okay to be a little bit more intense and a little bit more direct, and even to whack somebody if they weren't in the position you wanted them to be in. And I think that has bled down very strongly into it, even into a modern day reformer Pilates. I'm shocked by it on where it goes, because I'm with you. Pilates, I think, should be. I think Pilates and barre should be at the top on this.
Yeah, and so barre is the highest scoring.
and I think, and it's similar to yoga, because barre is not. You don't naturally know what to do in those classes, because it was never part of a gym class.
No.
And I'm not saying that HIIT and other things are part of gym, but
it certainly emerged off of it.
Yeah, like you kind of have done you've done a burpee at some point in your life. Of course, you still need help with it. But yoga especially, that's not a natural, you don't just, like someone's got to tell you how to do down dog. Someone's got to tell you some things. And
more so than some other, like cycling, for example. More so than that, I would say.
Exactly. So there should be more. I was saying that when you need to learn how to do something, there's more of an opportunity to elevate the experience. Then you do have to teach someone how to do barre and how to do yoga and how to climb up to that mega reformer and this cord and that cord and oh my goodness, they're so like it should be so great. Now, do you think, Jack, or I don't know if you know this with all the studios you went to, but sometimes in Pilates and yoga, the teacher is the front desk. Do you think that had to
we do tweak the standards a little bit, but we very much look for the same things. And again, that's very, very interesting, because sometimes that means they score terribly on reception services. Sometimes they don't, and the coach really does, or the instructor does a great job of balancing both duties.
It all comes down to how they've been onboarded and taught.
Exactly. If it really is just like, just check them in and then focus on the class, and it's not good. But you can see that some of them really have the systems and the processes. And with Pilates, I want to have a bit of positivity around all of these messages as well. So let's look at Solid Core. They've scored consistently well in our process. Many of them have been 5 stars. All of them have been award-winning. Every single visit that we've done to Solid Core, we've spoken to the team. They have all the processes in place, and they've just been valued at $750 million. So that's no mistake that they've managed to do that by doing things well. So again, this signifies the opportunity that's there when you do these things right. And if you're in Pilates or yoga and you're listening to this, up your game, and the spoils are there.
I think the one thing I'm taking away from the end of this is just the great opportunities we've got. They're not big reaches. I think the beautiful thing on this is that these are small steps that we can make that will make massive opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's with yoga. That's so interesting, the guru. I hadn't thought about that, the guru mentality. And if there's anything that I could leave your audience with is the hero of the story is the client.
I love that.
Hero is the client. So the teacher is a facilitator, like to make the client feel better. It is hard. It's not expensive.
But it's the hero's journey.
You know, it's right. It's not expensive. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to install anything. You just have to treat people a different way. And the trainers are incredibly important in that they make the client feel better. It's not
The other way
teacher
around.
feels
Yes, yeah.
great. And that's the employer's job, is to make the trainers feel great. Like, that's my job. Their job, like, I make them feel great. They make my teachers feel good. My clients feel great. Like, that's how it should go, not
The other way around.
Not the other way around. But everyone should feel great. It's just what's inspiring and who's inspiring who.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, I got to thank you both so much. This is one of those conversations that I really wish we had like 4 hours on.
Right.
Okay, next time we're going to do that.
Yes, we'll dive deep.
Well, I should
going
start a
to-
yoga studio.
Yes, let's do it. Yeah. Yoga and Pilates. Lisa,
I got all kinds of ideas.
can I give a final shout out? Because
Shout out.
since we started the Fit Guide, you know, I've sort of immersed myself in the world of hospitality and learned all about the Forbes Travel Guide and what they do there. And there's not enough people talking about this in the fitness industry. Yeah. Of course, Jennifer's infused that into the whole process, and it's been great to get to know Jennifer more. But one of the other voices that does talk about this so frequently is yourself. And you're one of the very few people, when I listen to your podcast, you use that word a lot about hospitality, about creating the member journey from start to finish. And there's not many people in the industry sort of singing that tune. So thank you for helping to get the message out as well.
Easy. A delight. A delight. A delight. I'm looking forward to many, many, many more phenomenal conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you.